As the pro-Palestinian demonstration marches through the streets of London there, France has banned all pro-Palestinian protests to try and ease tensions and clamp down on anti-Semitism after Hamas's terror attacks in Israel. Well, joining me now to discuss this is political commentator Matthew Stadlen and former Brexit Party MEP Belinda de Lucy. Matthew, I'd like to start with you. 10,000 people expected on the streets of London today, only 1 week since the terrorist attack, the brutal murders, kidnappings, the tortures that were going on in Israel at the hands of Hamas. Quite simply, is this kind of demonstration today, just 1 week on, is it appropriate?
It's a really difficult question to answer this. I have Jewish heritage. As I've said before on GB News, my grandparents were Jewish refugees. And what happened last weekend, whether you were Jewish, whether you're Muslim, whether you're neither of those things, were acts of medieval savagery that belonged in the Middle Ages. And it has been a traumatic time, I think, for Jewish communities in this country and around the world. So from the outset, I want to say that anything that is remotely anti-Semitic on the streets of this country, or indeed online, should be clamped down upon by the police. And these demonstrations, when they go ahead, need to be properly policed. Should we ban demonstrations in this country? No. Should we ban the Palestinian flag, as Suella Braverman seemed almost to be intimating we should? No. What she said in her letter to police this week was that circumstances, context matters, and something that might normally be OK might not be OK in certain circumstances. So, for example, if you're flying the Palestinian flag in order to support Hamas, she was suggesting this may fall foul of the law. I think that's a very dangerous line.
These are live pictures on the screen there now from that demonstration forming up at Portland Place, just by the BBC headquarters there, which I think is significant. It's going to be moving on for the next 3 hours. I'd like to bring in Belinda de Lucy now. Belinda, these kind of protests have been flat outlawed in Paris, in France. We saw a stabbing there yesterday, a country really on the knife edge. That stabbing was confirmed as a terror attack. My question to you is the same as Matthew. Just 1 week on, timing to me seems everything. Live pictures there. Sorry, this picture from Paris earlier this week where they were tear gassing a demonstration exactly like this to disperse it because they feared that these kind of protests can lead to an escalation of anti-Semitism. 650% increase of those incidents in London alone in the past week. Do you think today's protest should go ahead?
No. I feel utterly sickened and disgusted at the response that we've seen on the streets of this country before Israel even had a chance to respond to the attacks that have been anti-Semitic and Jew-hating. I've seen the pro-Palestinian protests across the world, especially in Sydney, Australia, gas the Jews, they were chanting. The problem with the protest is not the Palestinian flags. The two, Palestinians and Israelis, have had conflict for decades. They can protest whenever they like. It is the timing. The timing of this, a few days after Jews were massacred in a way we haven't seen since the Holocaust. To choose now as the time to show your support for a country where Hamas represents, I know it doesn't represent all Palestinians, Hamas has done nothing for the Palestinians. What has shooting hundreds of young people in the back, raping the women, beheading babies got to do with freeing Palestine? Absolutely nothing. We should be united. Muslims, Christians, Jews, we should be united against Islamist terror in the world, from Boko Haram to ISIS to Hamas. These are, as Matthew said, evil, barbaric, medieval tactics that are being used. They should delay it to at least give the Israelis time to grieve.
And I could see you're running very impassioned there. Apologies, anybody, for the phrase you used that was mentioned in Australia. But Matthew, don't worry, Matthew, tensions are very, very high. Isn't this about the timing? So soon after what happened, it just feels like another insult that the Jewish community just expected to endlessly absorb.
Yeah, let me be absolutely clear. I stand shoulder to shoulder with my fellow Jews in this country. Absolutely shoulder to shoulder. Hitler would have had me out the door immediately. What happened in Australia, which you mentioned rightly, sickened me to the core of my being. And anything that approximates that in this country needs to be clamped down on. However, one of the things that we hold dear in this country, one of the things that we should protect very, very carefully is freedom of speech. And if you were to ban demonstrations, it will drive things or risk driving things underground. So I don't think that that is the way forward. Hamas is an evil death cult, right? But at the same time, and it is possible to hold two thoughts in our mind at once, the deaths of hundreds of children in Palestine breaks my heart. And if you are protesting for the lives of children in Palestine, the idea that that should be banned, to me, is very wrong. Can I say one more very quick thing? I was at Wembley last night, and I thought hard about whether it was the right decision by the FA, and I think it would have been the FA who would have made this decision, but whoever's decision it was, I think it was, but only marginally right, not to colour the arch in the Israeli flag.
Why do you say that when they've shown the national colours of practically every other country stricken by disaster?
Indeed, and it's a very fair question, and it's why I thought very carefully about it. My answer is this. The people who did what they did in Israel last Saturday, just a few hours ago, a week ago, are as evil as ISIS. Let's make no bones about this. And I've said this week on GB News that I think the BBC should call these people terrorists because that is what they are, right? They are evil. However, when you have hundreds and hundreds of children dying in Palestine now as a consequence of the Israeli response, whether or not you agree with the Israeli response, the idea of colouring the arch with the colours of one flag, for me, but only marginally, would have felt distasteful.
But sorry, Martin, you carry on.
Go ahead.
Don't you think there's a climate that's been created in this country of double standards? We had in 2021 convoys of cars with a Palestinian flag driving up and down my friends' Jewish neighbourhoods in North London, chanting horrific things of what they were going to do to the mothers and to Jewish daughters. And you know what? They couldn't be prosecuted. So my worry about protests like this is the police simply can't supervise tens of thousands of people and differentiate between those who are there and support Hamas and those who are defending the lives of innocent Palestinians. You can't differentiate that at the moment because tensions are so high, and this country's unfortunately allowed Islamism, radical Islam, to take root in this country and across Europe, and we haven't been strong enough to defend ourselves against them.
Matthew, one key point here. It's been pointed out if you display the Hamas flag, you'll be instantly prosecuted. However, some of the organisers, I've been following them very closely, I do take a keen interest in some of the rabble-rousers around this, and they've said the following. It's not advisable today to burn the Israeli flag, but it's legal. How would you feel if they started setting fire to Israeli flags today? Would that be legal or would that be prosecutable?
So there's two different things. There's one is, would I agree with that? And I would think it was an act I mean, it would be despicable, an act of outrage to burn the Israeli flag, in my view. The second question is simply a matter of law. Would it be unlawful to do that? And I don't know what the law is on that. As far as people driving around Jewish neighbourhoods or neighbourhoods with a lot of Jewish people living there, chanting obscenities about Jewish women, if the law is, and I'd be surprised about this, but if the law is currently not robust enough to deal with these people, it jolly well needs to be robust enough to deal with them.
OK, final word, Belinda de Lucy. How sad does it make you feel to see this kind of thing happening on British streets today?
I feel like Western leaders have completely let their people down, just to allow this kind of thing to happen. We're supposed to be a safe haven, a sanctuary for those fleeing Islamist states. And Jewish people need to feel safe. I feel so protective of. There's barely any Jewish people in the world compared to other big religions like Christianity and Islam. We need to protect them. And at the moment, I think shame on us. We should have been far stricter at clearing out radical Islamism and Islamist causes in this country and differentiating them from ordinary Muslim people, because you must never conflate the two. The left conflate them to apologise for Islamists and the right conflate them to demonise Muslims. We have to be somewhere in the middle, but we have to be all united against radical Islamism sprouting up in our country. Jewish people are not as safe as they were, and we need to come out really forcibly and protect them. And today is not a day to protest for anything except against Islamist terrorism.
OK, Belinda de Lucy, an impassioned display, and Matthew Stadler, thank you very much.